Mic check. Cool, it works. This is attempt number 2. In today's presentation, for extra credit, we will be talking about 3 specific quotes, 2 from Young, Five Faces of Oppression, and 1 from Johnson, The Social Construction of Difference. I will be talking about what they mean to me, and how I think they apply to life in general, in particular my life, because this is the only one I've lived. In this extended structural sense, oppression refers to the vast and deep injustices some groups suffer as a consequence of often unconscious assumptions and reactions of well-meaning people in ordinary situations, media and cultural stereotypes, and structural features of bureaucratic hierarchies and market mechanisms, in short, the normal processes of everyday life. I think this quote is especially interesting because it talks about how oppression can refer to the vast and deep injustices that are almost unconscious to some groups. So as we've seen in previous units, this form of oppression against marginalized groups isn't something that is done outright a lot of the time. It can be internalized. It can be people who grew up just knowing that my people are safe, their people are strange, or just an out-group bias, something like that. It's important to know that these things can be internalized, and it can often come out in the form of, instead of going to your nearest preschool and yelling racial slurs at the kids, it can come out as supporting racist figures in government, or passing legislation that has a clause or two that will disproportionately affect marginalized communities. For the second quote, we will be looking at another quote from Young, I believe. A social group is defined not primarily by a set of shared attributes, but by a sense of identity. I think this quote is particularly interesting because it impacts, or rather it doesn't impact, it addresses something that has been present in our culture, even just recently. And I know not many people may like to say they enjoy the rapping songs of Eminem, especially in today's day and age where he is overshadowed, but for a while he was very big, and he did something that not a lot of white people were doing at the time, which was take on hip-hop, take on rap, try and stand with what was overwhelmingly an African American or just other marginalized groups. And while I don't think it was solidarity, I think it still shows that a social group not being defined by shared attributes such as skin color, especially is true because a social group is defined by an identity. I've even had conversations with other people and people online who say that Eminem is more black than white, or he belongs more with African Americans because of his hobbies. Finally, I will be looking at this quote. Baldwin isn't denying the reality that skin pigmentation varies from one person to another. What he is saying is that unless you live in a culture that recognizes such differences as significant, they are socially irrelevant and therefore, in a way, do not exist. Now, I think this is pretty interesting, and obviously it does say a lot about just the differences in how we treat each other based on physical aspects that in some cultures or some worlds, or maybe just a far-off distant future, wouldn't matter at all. I'm also going to take this from an ecological perspective because I really enjoy taking ecology. Humans actually have patterns in their skin that act as almost stripes. So who knows, maybe in some distant future, if humans are still around, we could find discrimination based on something as superficial as the patterns of your skin rather than pigmentation as we see today and have seen in the past. So in short, I have provided 3 short quotes, how I think they impact real life, how they impact me, and how they impact this class. I hope you appreciated. Thank you.